This session is on equivalent fractions. By the end of the lesson, we must be able to understand that fractions can be written in different ways. We should be able to find equivalent fractions, and some of us will be able to cancel fractions down into its simplest form. So for the first example, we have a shape and we've split it into 4 equal sections. So one of these sections is equal to a quarter. It's 1 out of 4. Okay, if I was to shade in 2 of them, that's 2 quarters. Okay, we can see that by shading in 2 quarters, it's the same as shading in a half. So if I was to take that shape and split it into 2, so now we have split it into 2 equal parts, and the part that's shaded is equivalent to 1 out of the 2. So 2 quarters is the same as 1 half. If I was to now split the shape into more pieces, so for example, if I split it in half like this, I have now got 8 equal sections, and out of the 8, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them have been shaded. So we've got 4/8. All of these fractions are equivalent. I haven't changed the amount of the shape that I've shaded, but I've just split it up in different ways. So 2 quarters is the same as a half, and that's the same as 4/8. And there's a general rule that we can use. As long as you multiply or divide the top and the bottom number by the same thing, you will always have an equivalent fraction. So if we have a look at the first one, 2 quarters equal to a half. Going from 4 to 2, I can divide by 2. So long as I do the same thing on the top, so divide by 2, I have an equivalent fraction. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, 4 divided by 2 is 2. So 2 quarters is the same as 1 half. If I look at a half and 4/8, we can think, how can I go from 2 to 8? That's by multiplying by 4. And then 1 times 4 is going to give me 4. So a half is the same as 4/8. We can do the same thing going from 2 quarters to 4/8. So for the bottom number, the denominator, I've multiplied it by 2. So for the numerator, I also have to times by 2. So let's have a look at another example. We've got 3 quarters and I want to find an equivalent fraction. So what can I times by to give me something over 12? So 4, it's going to be times by 3, gives me something over 12, so I need to do the same to the top. 3 times 3 is 9. So 3 quarters is the same as 9 over 12. We can also find another equivalent fraction. You can multiply the 9/12 or the 3 quarters by any number, and so long as you do it to the top and the bottom, you'll always get an equivalent fraction. So I'm going to multiply it by 2. So 12 times 2 is 24, 9 times 2 is 18. So all 3 of these fractions are equivalent. So let's have a look at the next example. We've got 2/5, and I want my answer to be something over 15. So 5 times what gives me 15, it's going to be multiplied by 3. So then I need to times the top number by 3 as well. So 2 times 3 gives me 6. So 2/5 is the same as 6/15. If I wanted to have another equivalent fraction, I can pick a number to times by. I'm going to times by 10. It doesn't matter what you multiply by, so long as it's the same on the top and the bottom. Okay, 15 times 10 is 150. 60 times 10 is 60. So 60 over 150 is the same as 2/5, and that's the same as 6 over 15. Both of these first fractions are in its lowest terms. There is no number which is a factor of both the numerator and denominator. So 2/5 and 3/4 are as simple as you can have it. Okay, that's in its most simplest form. So 2/5 and 3/4 are in its simplest form. Okay, so for these questions, you're just going to copy and complete each of the statements. All the fractions need to be equivalent, so we need to find a fraction that's equivalent to 2/5, and they've told us it has to be equal to something over 20. Okay, so we're multiplying by 4. 5 times 4 gives me 20. 2 times 4 gives me 8. So 8/20 is equal to 2 over 5. Okay, so you're going to go through and answer all of these questions. Okay, for the next question, you're going to write down 5 fractions which are equivalent to, and then you're given a few fractions. So let's do the first one together. So 1/3 is the same as, and then you need to think of a number to multiply the top and bottom numbers with. So if we multiply by 2, I get 2 over 6. Okay, if I multiply by 10, so 1/3, I multiply the top and bottom by 10, I get 10 over 30. I could multiply 2/6 by 10 on the top and the bottom, and so on. Okay, so you're going to find 5 fractions which are equivalent to the ones that are given here. Okay, for all of these questions, there are many answers that you could get. So just double check your answers and make sure that you've multiplied the top and the bottom numbers by the same thing. Okay, now we're going to have a look at simplifying fractions. So with this first one, we've got 10 over 12. And in order to simplify it, we need to get the denominator as small as possible. So we know that 10 and 12 are both in the 2 times tables. Okay, so 10 and 12 are both in the 2 times tables, so going from 12, I can divide by 2. Okay, so that gives me 6. So 12 divided by 2 is 6. 10 divided by 2 gives me 5. And now I need to think, what times tables are both 5 and 6 in? And there isn't one apart from the 1 times tables. So we leave that as it is, and that's as simple as it can get. Okay, so let's have a look at the next one. 14 over 21, which times tables are they both in? They're both in the 7s, and if I divide by 7, so 21 divided by 7 gives me 3, 14 divided by 7 gives me 2. Okay, so 14 over 21 is the same as 2 over 3. And then just to double check that this is as simple as we can make it, we need to think what times tables are both the 2 and the 3 in, and the only times tables they're both in is the 1 times tables. So that's as simple as we can make it. Okay, so copy and complete each of these statements. It's similar to the last questions that you've done, but we're dividing because we want to simplify our answers. Press play when you are ready to see the answers. Okay, for question D, if you've chosen to divide by 2, because we can see that 12 and 18 are both in the 2 times tables, that is fine, because we have 12 over 18. So if we divide by 2, I get 6 over 9. And then I need to look at the 6 over 9. Which times tables are both 6 and 9 in? They're both in the 3 times tables. So if I divide by 3, I'm left with 6 divided by 3 is 2, 9 divided by 3 is 3. Okay, now what times tables are both the 2 and the 3 in? And it's only the 1 times tables, so we can stop at 2 over 3. So that is your final answer for part D. You could have done it in one step and gone from 12 over 18 and saw that if we just divide straight away by 6, then that will give me 12 divided by 6 is 2, 18 divided by 6 is 3. Okay, for each of these questions, you are going to cancel each of the fractions, so you're simplifying all of these fractions. Okay, so remember, for some of them, you might need to simplify it more than once. So press play when you're ready to see the answers. Okay, for the next question, you're going to put the following fractions in order with the smallest first. So for the first one, we've got a half, we've got 5/6, and we've got 2/3. We need to make all the denominators the same in order to compare them. Just leaving it in the form that it is now is not going to help us, because we can get some fractions that are very close together, and without making the denominators the same, we won't know which one is bigger. For each of these, we're going to find the equivalent fraction, and we're going to make the denominators the same. So for the first one, what number can we have for the denominator? We've got 2, 6 and 3. We can all make that into 6. So we'll have a half is the same as something over 6. If we multiply by 3, it's going to be 3 over 6. And now if we look at the next one, 5 over 6 we can just keep the same. And then the last one, 2/3, I can change that. So 2 over 3 needs to be something over 6. Multiply it by 2. 2 times 2 is 4. So the fractions that I'm going to use are 3 over 6, 5 over 6 and 4 over 6. So from this we can see which one is the smallest. Okay, so 3/6 are smaller than 4/6. So that's the first one. So this one is the first. The next one is going to be 4 over 6. So 3 over 6, then 4 over 6, and then 5 over 6. Now we need to put our answers back into the original fractions that we were given. So the first one is the green one, which is a half. Okay, so this is my final answer. It's going to be a half. The next one was the blue one, which was 2 over 3. And then the biggest was 5 over 6. So that is my final answer. And the fractions are in order, starting with the smallest. So you're going to do the same thing for the rest of the questions. Okay, so you need to make all the denominators the same. You can colour code them if it's easier for you to see. And then make sure that your final answer is written in the original fractions that you are given in the question. Okay, so here are the orders of the fractions. So the smallest one was a half for B. The next smallest was 5/8, and then the next one was 3 over 4. Okay, so just go through and make sure that you've got them in the right order. Okay, so here's a homework sheet for you to do. Similar to what we've been doing, for question 2, you're going to copy and complete each of the statements. So you're finding fractions which are equivalent to a quarter, and then 2/3 and so on. Okay, they have given you the denominator in some of them. So how can I go from 4 to 12? You're going to multiply by 3. So on the numerator, the top number, you're going to multiply by 3 as well. Okay, so you're going to go through and answer all of those questions. Okay, here are a few more.